Yo, what up? So, in today's video, I want to talk about how to handle being unemployed. This is not a video on how to find a job. It's really just a video on how to handle not having a job, just how to mentally handle it. For some context, one of the guys I'm coaching is going through a transition right now from graduating college to real work, and he's trying to transition into finding a job. And I just want to share with you some of the things I told him because I feel like it might be helpful to anyone else going through this as well. So this is really targeted at people going from college to work, but I think it can apply to really anyone that's unemployed. But I think especially your first time transitioning from college to work is very stressful, right? It's definitely not going to be the most stressful thing in your life, but up to this point, I think it's probably the most stressful thing in your life. And I think especially for young men, it's like really hard because it's the first time where you have to prove your worth to society. And there's actually like an actual number attached to your worth as well, right? It's basically your first year salary. And it's just really stressful because it feels like there's a lot on the line, and it feels like this is what your value is, right? Finally, you've been doing this, you've been working and going to school for like 18 years, and now it's finally to prove your value. And whatever job you get is like basically your value, right? And I think at this point in your life, to add on top of it, to amplify, is like everyone's kind of in each other's business. You're still really close to all your peers, so everyone kind of knows what everyone else is doing. So there's like an extra social aspect that amplifies those feelings. So it's really easy to attach your self-worth to whether or not you find work. And that's actually the number one thing you shouldn't do. And I just want everyone to be really, really cognizant of whether or not you're doing this. I think naturally you're going to try to, but it's actually a recipe for disaster, right? And I think if you start basing your internal feelings about yourself on anything external, is not good because you have no control over it, right? So either up or down. Let's say you make a bunch of money. Let's say you get a really good job, right? And you start thinking about yourself at a higher level. Like, oh, I'm so great, whatever, because of this job, because I found this job, I'm a certain level and I'm this great. And then you start attaching your identity to this job. Then at some point, this job's not gonna be that great anymore, right? Maybe you'll get laid off or whatever at some point, or you'll get pigeonholed or something won't go well, or you lose your job. And now what do you have, right? If your entire worth was based on this job, then you're pretty much fucked, right? Mentally for a while. So I think either up or down is not a good idea to attach your self worth to a job or really anything external for that matter. But yeah, definitely at this point in your life, if you're not able to find a job, you definitely don't want to attach your self worth to nothing as well, because basically you're gonna feel really bad about yourself. You're gonna lose a lot of confidence. It's gonna affect your actions as well, and those actions that it affects won't be ideal to your future or ideal to you finding a job. And I remember like when I was 22 or 23, I had actually graduated early, right? So maybe when I was 21, I graduated, and then I worked somewhere for a little bit, and then basically, long story short, I wasn't mature enough because all my friends were still partying in college, right? I wasn't mature enough to hold the job, so I got laid off. And then eventually, basically, when everyone else started like graduating and looking for work, I was in the same boat as them, right? And then I couldn't find a job for like a year or a year and a half or anything that was good paying. And then one day, I remember I was like visiting home, and I was eating lunch with my mom, and she was just like asking me like, "Hey, why can't you find a job?" And then I don't know what it was like. I don't know if she said, I can't remember if she said it in a mean way or anything, but like I just started crying. And I was like at a restaurant. I still remember it was like a Chinese restaurant. It was just me, my mom, and like the owner. And I just started crying. And I'm like 22. And then like yeah, I was feeling so bad about myself. I think I just went through like a year and a half of just like, I don't know if it's depression, but just like you're just a low self confidence. You just like everything you're doing, just thinking about this job, and like everything you do is seen through this lens. And definitely, like I probably had a lot of actions I did that was like coming from a place of low confidence or low self esteem, or you're trying to overcompensate in a lot of ways, right? And I kind of regret a lot of the actions that I did just because I was feeling that way. But like that's because I was attaching my self worth to something that was external, right? But I was still the same person. I was still the same person with everything else, but I just couldn't see myself any differently because I couldn't find a job. So that's definitely not helpful to finding a job, and it's not helpful to anything. So I would just really, really, I know it's hard to do, but really, really think about it and really, really make sure you don't attach the outcome of whether or not you find a job to your self worth. Maybe you can attach the actions you take to finding a job to your self worth, right? So if you tried hard at it, then yeah, you can feel good about yourself. If you didn't try hard about it, then yeah, feel bad about yourself. But that's basically the extent of what you should do. At this point in your life, you're always thinking like, oh, the college I get into or the first job I get is going to have a big effect on my life because, it's going to be an inflection point, right? So if I fuck up here, then your life's going to go like this way instead of this way. And it's going to be like a huge inflection point where it really matters. And yeah, I could see that being true to a degree. But at the same time, like you have a million opportunities for different inflection points, right? At any time in your life could be a big inflection point. It's not just your college you get into, the first job you get, because there's gonna be a bunch of other chances where you can change things big or good or bad in extreme ways for that matter. So it's not just like this one thing. Don't think about, oh, like if I don't get a job in the next 6 months, I'm fucked, right? Yeah, it's probably not gonna be great, but there's a plenty of chances to catch up. And I think at this point in your life, like everything has been straight up from here, right? You went to like every year you progress a grade. Every year, life gets a little bit different. Life gets better. You get better at things. At some point in your life, things are going to get worse, right? Like your next year is going to be worse than the year before. That typically doesn't happen when you're 18, but like when you're 33, something bad might happen to you where you're in a position where it's worse than when you were 29, right? And that happens. And like there's going to be a million inflection points. So whether or not you find a job right now in the next 3 to 6 months or whatever, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And a lot of times things that happen to you that seem really good now actually end up not being so good. Or things that happen to you that are bad now end up actually not being so bad. Like how many times have you heard someone tell a story where it was like something horrible happened and they go, "Oh, that was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life," right? Because you don't know until like a couple years down the road. So basically what I'm saying is everything that happens now is significant, but it's not going to affect your life in the long term, right? So you'll have a lot of chances to make it better. You'll have a lot of chances to make it worse. So don't stress out too much thinking that this is the most significant time of your life. All right, so I want to walk you through another thought exercise that I think will be helpful if you're stressed about not finding a job right now. And that is, I guarantee you're going to find a job. As long as you try to find a job, everyone in the history of the world who's looked for a job has found a job, right? There's no scenario in the world where you're not going to find a job. You will for sure find a job. You're not any different than everybody else. You're going to find a job. And I guarantee you at some point when you're working at this job that you found, you're going to be like, damn, thinking back about how you are now, you're like, man, I had so much free time back then. I had X, Y, and Z back then. I wish I did X, Y, and Z, right? You're gonna be like, now when you're working at a job, there's gonna be a lot more constraints, right? You're gonna have less time. Yeah, you'll have more money, but you're not gonna be thinking about the money you have. You're gonna be thinking about what you didn't have back then. So what you should do right now is you should focus on the positives in your life, which is you have free time, you can do things, you still talk to your friends or whatever it is. But there's gonna be things that are better for you right now than they will in the future, and you should appreciate those things right now. And I guarantee you, no matter how great of a job you find, you're going to have some things that you don't like about it, right? And you're going to complain about it, and it's going to be, it's going to be shitty in whatever way. And you're going to, even if things get a lot better in your life, you're going to have a new baseline. Everything that you have now you're going to get used to. And that's your new baseline of expectation. And you're pretty much going to be just as happy as you are now. All right. So what I would like you to do or try to do is realize that now and just focus on your happiness, because your happiness will always balance out, right? You're not going to be any happier now than you are in the future. Maybe you will be if you work on yourself, but if you don't work on yourself, you're basically going to be just as happy no matter what the external factors are. You're going to get used to it. So if you have that logic, then you should just be happy now while you don't have a job, because there's a lot of things that are positive in your life right now that you're probably not appreciating. So that's it. Basically, you're going to find a job and just be happy with the process. And there's a lot of things to appreciate. So hope this helps. If it doesn't help, let me know, but I feel like it should. And yeah, thanks for watching. You might have noticed I haven't been uploading a lot on YouTube recently, just because the honest reason is just because I don't have that many topics that I haven't covered already that I think I feel like I can talk about. So if you have any topics you want me to talk about, feel free to suggest them. Otherwise, I'll just upload when I think of something to talk about. So hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching, and yeah, like and subscribe or whatever. Bye.